With the floodgates well in place to delimit the number of migrants from China to Hong Kong, the Immigration Department make it difficult for mainland talents to secure employment visas under the General Employment Policy. So they constructed the Admission of Mainland Talents and Professionals scheme instead. The next visa type that I want to go through is the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. Now, for all practical purposes, the AMTPS visa is the same as the General Employment Policy visa, the employment visa that I've just discussed with you. But because we have the floodgates policy to make it difficult for mainlanders to come and live and work in Hong Kong, clearly the Immigration Department make it more difficult for mainlanders to come in. So while the criteria, the provability criteria are effectively the same, the way that the application is processed and the expectations of the quality of the applicant are higher. They are very, very similar in terms of how they're experienced. So the present Admission of Mainland Talents and Professionals scheme was an amalgamation of two separate programs that came into force at the end of the 1990s, and I think they were separate for about 2 or 3 years, and then the Immigration Department realised it was ridiculous having what was really the same sort of visa type run across two particular streams, so they put them both together into the program that we've got today. The objective of the Admission of Mainland Talents and Professionals scheme is to enhance Hong Kong's status as an Asian world city, whatever that means. So the intention is to attract qualified mainland talents and professionals who possess special skills, knowledge and experience not readily available locally, and they've got to contribute to our economy, the arts, culture, sports, and given Hong Kong and our love for food, the culinary profession. So what represents the approval criteria here? Well, as I say, special skills, knowledge and experience of value to are not readily available in Hong Kong. There has to be no security objection. The expectation is the applicant has got a very good education. For mainland Chinese, it's either a bachelor's degree and a minimum of 5 years post-secondary working experience in a managerial or supervisory capacity, but ideally a master's degree, an advanced degree. There has to be a genuine job vacancy, which no local person can reasonably expect it to uptake, I should say, and that the offer of employment has to be for a position that's relevant to the applicant's background. The entity which is seeking to employ the mainland talent has to be registered locally as a business, and it has to be well established. The compensation has to be broadly commensurate with market rates for such professionals in Hong Kong. There's no sector specificity under the Admission of Mainland Talents and Professional scheme, so you can make an application for any type of commercial activity. And the program is used to the tune of about 12,000 visas a year, I believe. So there's about 12,000 approvals under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. And the overwhelming majority of those cases come from well-educated individuals in China, well-established companies in Hong Kong. They have a need for that particular mainland talent in Hong Kong, and then they go through the process of getting the visa by passing the approvability test. In instances, though, there might be an occasion where there is an owner of a business in the mainland that is interested in coming to Hong Kong to, well, basically take advantage of Hong Kong. So you can use the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals where there is an owner of a business in the mainland who's wanting to establish a new Hong Kong operation and subsequently relocate to that operation in due course. These cases are very difficult. The Immigration Department pour a lot of scrutiny onto them, but we've gotten them approved, and this is how you go about doing it. So the mainland business owner comes to Hong Kong as a business visitor. He incorporates the company and then he leaves. The company now exists. He then applies for essentially a short-term employment visa under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. So the Immigration Department then go through the process of considering the application, applying the approvability test, making sure he's got the requisite skills, and then the grant of the visa accrues. On the other hand, if the owner of the business himself doesn't want to come but wants to send one of his executives, then the executive, the mainlander, will come to Hong Kong as a visitor, and then as a visitor goes through the process of laying down all the facts on the ground, incorporating, looking for an office, putting in motion the potential to recruit locally, all that kind of good stuff. And then once all that's in place, they return back to the mainland. Once to the mainland, they apply for the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals, and then they're able to come back to Hong Kong and now give effect to the early part of the plan. Once they've implemented the plan, they go back to the Immigration Department and then seek to apply for an extension of stay to the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals visa. And then if the Immigration Department are on that basis satisfied that the company has now become well established and that it's in Hong Kong's interest to allow this particular mainlander to remain in Hong Kong under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals scheme in this sort of new company type setup scenario, then they will grant an extension of stay and put them on the normal 2-year track after that. Okay, and then the third scenario where we've seen action, if you will, under the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals, are where you have got a mainland intercompany transferee situation. So you've got a Hong Kong company which got offices or a factory on the mainland, or you've got a mainland company with a branch office in Hong Kong, or you've got a multinational enterprise with branch offices in Hong Kong and the mainland. So in order to avail of an intercompany transferee determination under this program, the expectation is that the applicant is going to be engaging in managerial or professional activities, and supervisory duties at a minimum are expected, and the skills of the applicant need to be very high. So there has to be a 12-month prior employment with the associated entity, and this is in the mainland, and this is a necessary precondition. And the compensation has to be broadly commensurate with market rates, and the multinational intercompany transferee quota, so to speak, must be reasonable, all things considered. And what's reasonable, I'm not quite sure, because I don't have enough experience across the entire array of this area to know if there's a particular finite number. But generally stated, you shouldn't be top heavy with mainlanders. There should be a suitable balance between local employees and mainlanders.
What's the difference between the mainland business owner and the foreign business owner?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What's the difference between the mainland business owner and the foreign business owner?
Well, a mainland business owner he's got his enterprise in the mainland, and he owns the business in Hong Kong, concept that he's transferring to. A foreign business owner would be a non-mainland owner, if I've understood that properly.
I'm talking about the chance of success and the application process.
Oh, I see what you mean. I'd say it's probably about the same, as long as you choose your candidates properly. Yeah. Yeah. Remember, 96% of these applications get approved.
Do you think a foreign business owner, the chance of success will be relatively higher than the mainland business owner?
I would say that the conditions for approval for a foreign business owner are relaxed compared to the expectations for a mainland business owner. It's always more difficult for mainlanders to get approved in Hong Kong because of the floodgates policy. So in general terms, yes, I would say that's true. Yeah. Great, good. Any other questions? Okay, so just to sort of sweep up behind the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals, you can't change your status if you're applying under this program from visitor to AMTPS while you're visiting Hong Kong, so you have to be in China. Once you've been approved, you can change employers. You have to go through the change of sponsorship process, but again, as always, you have to satisfy the criteria for approval in the context of the new employment that's on offer. Yes, under this visa, mainlanders can bring their dependents as long as they are a lawful legal spouse and unmarried children under the age of 18. And the extension of stay process, assuming that there's no change in the employment conditions at the time that you apply for the extension of stay, will mean that the original approval will come in for 2 years, and then the first extension of stay will be for 3 years, and then the second extension of stay will be for 3 years. That assumes that there's no change in the employment conditions of the applicant at the time that they make the application for extension. Okay, great. Again, I had to run through this very quickly, a lot of material. Yeah, good. Okay, so again, thankfully the enhancement measures also extended the top tier status to AMTPS applicants too. Again, all the information you need can be found on the Hong Kong Visa Handbook online, hongkongvisahandbook.com.